Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm gonna give it just a few minutes while we get some folks into the session. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. I'm excited that you're here with us this evening. Couple more minutes while we get a few more folks in here. Love it. Love lots of people trickling in. I love it. Well, hi. Welcome to our session this evening. My name is Tracy Zappola. I am a director of admissions. I'm here to tell you a little bit more about the source. Before we get started, I want to first congratulate you on your acceptance to Syracuse University. We're so excited for you. We look forward to seeing you on campus, hopefully this fall, and welcoming you to our Orange family. We're excited this evening to share some additional information on the source. Before we get started, just a quick housekeeping item. As a reminder, your admissions acceptance form is due by May 1st with the corresponding advance payments to secure your seat for the fall 2026 semester. Please refer to your acceptance notification in your student portal for all the necessary information regarding that. I'm joined today by a couple of our students, current students, and Kate Hansen, who is our director of the Syracuse Office of Undergraduate Research and Creative Engagement. Throughout the evening, we will have the ability to answer your questions live through the question answer feature on the webinar. So feel free to ask us any questions that you might have. Then we will leave time at the end to address some additional questions live in there. So my colleague Kate Domagol and I will be behind the scenes answering your questions. So again, feel free to use that Q&A feature on the Zoom screen. I'm going to let Kate take it away and have the students introduce themselves as well.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And I'll echo Tracy's congratulations on your acceptance. And we're here this evening to talk a little bit more about undergraduate research at Syracuse University and all the ways that students can get involved and programs specifically that our office runs to support student involvement in faculty-guided research. So my name is Kate Hansen. Director of the Source. I've been with the office since its founding in 2019, and I've been with the university 16 years now. My background is in art history. I'm an art historian by training and absolutely adore my work here with students and all different majors getting involved in research. And I'm joined by two of our fantastic student peer mentors, Alyssa and Ayla. So I will pass to Ayla to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ayla. I'm a junior at Syracuse, majoring in biology and environment sustainability and policy. I'm not sure if I'll give a little blurb about my research specifically later, but I have been involved in research at Syracuse for 3 years here.
Thank you. And to Alyssa.
Hi, Lisa. I am a senior majoring in psychology with a minor in forensic science. I've been involved with research for about 2.5 years now.
All right. Thank you both so much. Yeah, we'll hear more about your specific research activities soon. Okay. So I'd like to start by just kind of sharing how we, think and talk about research. Syracuse is an R1 institution, so that's a Carnegie classification for the highest level of research activity. That means we have an incredible faculty, amazing doctoral programs, and that, our faculty and researchers, which also includes undergraduate students, are publishing, presenting, sharing their work. In top venues and at very high levels. So it's a fantastic place to get involved in research. But sort of what do we mean by research, right? There's a lot of, misconceptions that research is, only for science majors or, research is only for students doing a thesis in their senior year. But we've developed a way to talk about research that encompasses all kinds of activity. And at its heart, research starts with curiosity about something, starts with, asking questions disciplines, wondering about, some concept or aspect of the world or reading or historical moment. Um, and so a researcher is asking lots of questions and just has that kind of driving curiosity to formulate, right, a research question. It's always supported by evidence. So the researcher, uses the tools of their discipline, be that, lab work in the sciences or, creating models and architecture, as you kind of see on these photos, to composing original music. So using the tools of the discipline to formulate a response, right, to those questions. Research is always a conversation, right? A researcher is in conversation with other scholars, artists, and practitioners in the field, people that have, done work on similar topics and can kind of be part of a research community that the researcher enters into. And what I think is the most exciting thing about the research process and what, I really love working, especially with undergraduates getting involved in research, is it really represents the creation of new knowledge. It's discovery. It's the kind of excitement of building something new that the world doesn't know yet. And so for a student, that can be such a shift, depending on the models of education that they've had in secondary schooling. We oftentimes, the students, the recipients, right, of our pre-existing knowledge, but moving to build those research skills and, become a researcher asking questions reflects just such an interesting shift in a student's intellectual journey, right? To move to participating in the creation of new knowledge, which I think is super exciting. So at this point, yeah, let's pass over to Ayla and Alyssa, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit more specifically about your various research experiences, and what kind of more specifically, what do you do? So we'll start again with Ayla.
Hi, yeah. So as I said, I'm a biology and environment sustainability and policy major. And I actually got into research my first semester here. I knew I really wanted to go do research. So I went and I talked to the student research mentors at the time and reached out to my professor. And I got involved in a fungal ecology lab my first semester here. So I've been working in that for the last 3 years. And if you are interested in STEM research, I get a combination of like field work, so I can go out into the woods and see, my research in real time, and then also those like wet lab skills. So I'm doing more of those, what you would think of as like when you think of a scientist in a lab, that type of wet lab skills. And then also, I do a lot of like reading, different literature reviews and things like that. So there's lots of different ways that research can go. Um, yeah, and I also will be participating in a research experience for undergrads, an REU program this summer in Mississippi, which will look at the impacts that climate change conditions have on insects. So,
Very cool. Thank you. And that's hot off the press, this exciting Mississippi opportunity. Yeah, the REU programs are summer research programs funded by the National Science Foundation. Syracuse has 4 REU programs and another similar program in psychology. So we're happy to host those as well. So Alyssa, yeah, tell us a little bit about the different ways you've been involved in research and what have you done?
I actually first started getting involved in research through Sources Explore program, which is like a basically like a short-term research experience just for like freshmen and sophomores that you want to get involved in research but you don't know where to start. You can like meet with different professors from like a various of different majors. The one that I did, I was on the first like one that they started, so I did like geography, and I learned a lot of skills like when it comes to kind of literature review, as well as using like new technology because I'm not a geography major, but it was interesting to find like new ways to kind of collect data through that, and it got me more interested in wanting to further research. This was my sophomore spring semester, and then I had seen that the psychology department was doing their own like nationally funded research called Star U, and that was like a behavioral research and alcohol program. I like applied and I got in, so I started doing research over the summer with Dr. Balsalenko. She's a professor in human family science and development. I through that, like I was able to work on like developing like a proper grad application while also doing my own research with the professor. Like at the end of it, we were able to do our own like poster presentation. We like analyzed different data sets that we have found, as well as did my own like literature review and paper. After that, like I still continued on in the lab with Dr. Vasilenko, and we went on to like continue writing about like two more projects. And we're mostly focused on like ACEs, which is like looking into specific childhood trauma that and seeing how it might manifest in children in today, basically, and how we can predict specific issues. I also did research with the psych department with Dr. Tanya Eckert, and basically, we would go specifically into the Syracuse schools and test the children and kind of see how we can develop better ways for them to plan like with writing and see how we can like benefit the Syracuse system.
Fantastic. Thank you. You both had such a rich variety of experiences. And Alyssa, I think your experience really shows that, students may work with different faculty mentors and may kind of engage in research in different ways throughout your time here. So you've done a mix of programs, kinds of research, including like the community engaged work and with students in local schools. So really fantastic. And Ayla also, like you said, really experiencing a lot of different research environments, all kind of under with one mentor. So you've had such rich experiences. Thank you. Okay, so I kind of these next few slides are, kind of a who, what, when, where, and why of undergraduate research. So who, I think we've sort of talked about it's, students in all majors, right? Can do research here. A student is always guided by a faculty mentor. And then, what it sort of look like, there's no, as you kind of saw highlighted with Ayla and Alyssa, like there's no singular pathway. So a student might assist a professor or research team on their, larger project. A student might get involved in a lab or research group and kind of build their skills and take ownership of one sort of area or piece of a project. And a student might design their own project as an individual or as part of a team of students. So there's a lot of different entry points and a lot of different forms that a research experience might take. So when we recommend starting early, which is why I'm grateful to be speaking with you before you even start at Syracuse. So yeah, really think about research, exploring mentors, exploring different pathways, and thinking about how it's going to fit into your college career, as early as your first year, and consider how you can kind of build it in. Students do research, certainly, like, Ayla and Alyssa are kind of a longer term commitment, a couple of years plus each. But sometimes students might engage in research just for a summer or, just one academic year. So again, kind of no singular pathway, but it all works and builds your skills in really great ways. Summers are a really wonderful time to engage in research activity because your students can dedicate a little more time. And then where, certainly on campus in our own labs, mentors, research institutes, etc. Students often can do research through a course, research intensive courses. A lot of major and degree programs at Syracuse have thesis and capstone projects built into the major. So students, either optionally or required, are already doing a major research project as a culmination of their degree requirements anyway. So there's a lot of research that's already kind of baked into degree programs. And then off campus, so like Ayla shared, going to this RU program at Mississippi State. So there's other students may often, go to another university or another institution over a summer, typically, to pursue research as well. And these are just, I thought I'd bring in a few other, just examples from various fields. So just kind of highlight the range of possibilities. So, everything on this slide from, a team of students serving as research assistants that are working with an economics professor, Christy Bazard, looking at kind of the history of tariffs and doing economic analysis of how industries were affected by those tariffs starting in the 1930s. to, Ava, a student who just presented at our March showcase, who did a really interesting public health study using data from the neighboring hospitals, looking at fetal heart tracing patterns and potential outcomes for infants. Others, let's see, we have a really cool lab over in the iSchool, or School of Information Studies. Students are looking at human-robot interaction. Liliana here, an art photography student who did a really kind of in-depth exhibition, photographic exhibition with a specific thematic focus of kind of stereotyping in the American dream. To other, just a few other examples. Anya is one of our fashion students who is really interested in natural dyes and the possibility for natural dyes for, kind of resolving some of the environmental impacts of the fashion industry. So did a fashion collection based solely on fabric that she herself had spun and woven and dyed with natural dyes. And then another kind of social science project on the future of work, right? Where students were conducting interviews and doing qualitative research on the experiences of freelancers that primarily work through online platforms. So I hope you kind of, get a sense through those examples. I mean, there's just hundreds and hundreds of more. There's so much interesting work going on, but just of the whole variety of ways that students can be involved. So sort of the why, it's like, okay, research, we're at an amazing place for research, but there's so many other awesome opportunities that students have and ways to grow. So sort of why should students consider participating in undergrad research? So maybe I'll pose it first to Ayla and Alyssa, kind of what have been, some of the benefits for you for participating in undergrad research?
I could not speak more highly of undergrad research. I think it's really transformed my experience at Syracuse. One of the academic reasons is I think it's made it so much easier for me to comprehend things that I learned in some of my general biology classes because I could really apply them to things that I was learning in my lab and something that I was putting personal effort into. So I found that there were a lot of things that other people might have been like, really struggling to study for. And for me, I could just connect it with something that I was working on in the lab. Another thing for me was a big support system. Like my lab has just been amazing. It's filled with fantastic people of all levels, undergrads, PhD students, master's students, and two PIs. And through that, I've gotten help, applying to scholarships, writing both of my theses, and yeah, it's been a really good experience. I was here over last summer. I stayed in my lab as a research assistant, and it was honestly one of like the most fun summers I've ever had. I went up to the Adirondacks and got paid to hike in the Adirondacks and do a bunch of lab work. So yeah, I think it's just a great support system, and even working with like the source staff and getting connected with them. There's so many people that are there to help you with not only your research but also your career and your undergrad experience. So
Fantastic.
I would say like it is also like really good to know that you're creating your own set of like research and ideas. I would say like especially working in my lab, we would it helped me to kind of narrow down my own like patterns or like the populations that I want to help in my own career. So I think that's one. Another is it's like also really beneficial on your resume to have done research. And outside of like just taking like classes, it's also just like really fun, like I would say. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it is that you're playing and you're asking and answering questions. Thank you both. Yeah. Um, so kind of you really covered most of my talking points here, but certainly applying your knowledge, like they said, taking knowledge from the classroom and using it to look at real questions. Um, I think one of the others I want to highlight here is skill development and skill building. So there's a lot that you do and learn in your classes and your major requirements. Um, but there's a lot of kind of data analysis or other kind of practical professional skills that really come through doing research and doing research, that extends maybe beyond a semester. We could really practice those skills in a significant way. Um, and another kind of misconception about research is like, oh, that's for students who are interested in graduate study or, further study. And absolutely, if you're interested in graduate school or professional school, research is almost a must. But if you have goals for just, the job market, for industry, research has so many benefits in terms of, again, sort of building those skills, but also demonstrating your independence, your leadership, your ability to work well in a team, to work well with a supervisor, all that sort of good things. I have lots of students say that they talked about their research experiences in job interviews or grad school interviews. So it's really helpful there for future goals. And then this last point, develop a strong faculty mentor relationship. That I think is a primary benefit of getting deeply involved in research, is that you get to know a professor and you get to know them outside of the classroom and they get to know you, right? So the professor learns, gets to see how you think, see how you problem solve, see how, help you're exploring something that you're really excited about together. And that's a really meaningful, and wonderful part about being a college student, to have these incredible experts in their field that are, welcoming for students to come join their research areas. And that person also, research mentors are an advocate for their students and certainly help support them into next steps as well. Okay. So now I'll kind of shift to talk a little bit more specifically about our office and the resources that we have. SOURCE, kind of three-part mission, right, where we help students at any phase of the research journey, from, getting started and thinking about it, to helping students engage more deeply at more advanced levels as they consider maybe presenting or publishing. We also support faculty mentors and foster and facilitate best practices for mentorship. We're also a funding agency, so we have funding to support research participation, because research does take time and often money, right, to sort of make it happen. So we have grants and awards to support students in that way. And then we're also an institutional resource and hub for data collection. We offer campus-wide symposia events 3 times a year, and collect data on undergraduate research. So some of our programs that we offer, so we kind of divide these out into, kind of the level of student. But so early students, so just getting started, maybe first, second year, we have a program that Alyssa mentioned and Alyssa participated in, called SOURCE Explore, which is a hands-on research experience where you're kind of testing out just a little slice of a research project for, a 5-week period. You present, so you kind of get a sense of the research cycle. Those are really fun. And then we also have a faculty research assistant program where faculty apply for funding to pay students to work as research assistants, supporting them on their various projects. And that's a real win-win with faculty and students, because both are getting great benefits. And then funding for, sort of student projects, where the student is applying for the funding. And one thing we sort of think about our grant programs is that it's a professional development skill to apply, to write a formal application for funding. So that's why we kind of we've structured them that way. So students kind of learn how to articulate their topic, articulate some of the existing scholarship. It's sort of where the research is making a contribution. So we feel like that is a nice form of practice and kind of that style of writing and creating a research narrative. And we offer lots of support to students through the application process. So we have a kind of, this Bridge Award, applications 3 times a year, can support a student at any phase. So it could be used for anything from, a summer to, collect data on a project, or if a student has, done more work and is closer to completion, maybe to go present at a conference. The Source Fellowship is our largest award for a kind of, more significant advanced projects that would take a full summer or academic year. And then we have a couple of externally funded awards for specific areas, philosophy and science or international research, which is really neat. And then, as students kind of have engaged in research and are ready to sort of present, share, et cetera, their work. These are some opportunities that we facilitate, like I mentioned, events 3 times a year where they really are cross-disciplinary. So we get students from all the schools and colleges sharing their work and also kind of learning how to articulate their research for a broader audience, which is a really helpful skill. And students present posters. They also present interactive displays of their work. The ACC is our athletic network, which also hosts an annual undergraduate research conference. And Ayla actually was one of our representatives last year, I believe, for Meeting of the Mind. So we send 5 students every year to that. That was actually just last weekend at Florida State University. We have annual awards for various folks around campus that are kind of part of our larger network of research support. And here, I'll kind of pause to mention, like we're the central hub, but there's a lot of other pockets and areas and grant-funded programs that are promoting and facilitating undergraduate research. So, we're a place we know and can direct students to all the different places that align with their goals and interests. So we're really fortunate to have a lot of areas of support on campus. And then we have a graduation recognition for students that have participated in research. So, I think it might be helpful to sort of move into questions and further discussion. So I'll just kind of leave here with this, our contact information. The Source office is part of a relatively new grouping of student offices called the Center for Student Excellence. It's kind of meant to be a one-stop shop for some of the great co-curricular academic support programs. So undergraduate research, tutoring, living learning communities, Shaw Center, the Community Engagement Office. So we're all now co-located in a great new building at 100 Sims Drive. And I've included my email there, and you're welcome to reach out to me with any questions. All right.
This is awesome. Thank you. We have had a few questions come in
Okay.
while you were speaking. The first one is just how competitive are research opportunities in general on campus?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So, I would say that there's not a student that, that truly wants to get involved in research. You'll find a place, right? You'll find a placement. It's, it may not always be sort of immediate. Like there is a bit of kind of, finding the right mentor, finding a mentor that is able to take on students at that moment. But there's no student that truly wants to do research and is committed to it that wouldn't, find a pathway through it. So, in our grant programs, there's a very good success rate. Yeah, students who, again, like we offer a lot of pre-application support. So students that work with us closely have a very good chance of getting funded. So yeah, that's kind of why we're here, because it can be at all university campuses. There's not, it's not a necessarily structured program. Like I said, there's kind of a lot of different ways to get involved. So we kind of help students navigate that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And related to that, a couple questions about timing. So can first year students get involved with research, and can students as late as potentially their junior or maybe even senior year, if they're coming in as a transfer student, can they get involved in research? Is it difficult for them?
Yeah, so first year, absolutely. I mean, first semester is kind of like getting one's feet under oneself typically. But that Source Explorer program that I mentioned welcomes first year students. So that would be in spring of the first year. There's always first year students that are just ready to go. They kind of, have an idea, a sense of the kind of research they're interested in, and they can absolutely get started. Now, Ayla and Alyssa, I think you both started as sophomores. Is that right? No, Ayla, you're sooner. Yeah.
I started my first month at Syracuse, so my
Your
first
first month.
semester.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you knew. Yeah. So,
Can I say a little blurb? I
mhm.
have a mini answer to this question. I think it also depends on how you want to participate in research. So for my first year here, I volunteered about 3 hours a week in my lab and I developed a fellowship proposal. And so then my second year, I was under a fellowship. And then my third year, which is what I'm in right now, I'm getting credit for my lab. So it can kind of develop as you go through your years.
Mhm. Yeah. And then in terms of kind of joining later, absolutely. We definitely have transfer students that have been exceptional researchers. And, typically, we hope to kind of that we find each other relatively quickly after they, arrive on campus. But absolutely, students can get started in the junior year. Um, in senior year, I had mentioned a lot of majors kind of have thesis or research kind of baked into that senior year curriculum anyway. So, if a student hadn't picked up research experience prior to that, then they're going to be engaging through their major program through, more of a course-based research experience. So, yeah, that's.
Great, thank you. And then speaking of course-based research experience, a couple different questions specific to various academic programs. One about humanities, is there opportunities for students, say philosophy or English, looking to get involved with research? And another one for journalism or communications, are there opportunities for those students?
Absolutely. So on the humanities side, there's a really amazing, so, students certainly like through just working with an individual mentor can develop projects of all kinds or work as research assistants. Like we have a pretty good showing of humanities faculty that bring students into their work as research assistants. But I'll specifically highlight something called the Engaged Humanities Network, which is a kind of a coalition of humanities faculty who really are interested in kind of public facing humanities work that's engaging with the local community or other communities. Um, and that's been a really active group. They develop courses specifically around kind of similar principles of this sort of public facing humanities work. And then those individual kind of courses and research teams often bring students into their projects. And then the Engaged Humanities Center itself keeps a running team of like 10 to 12 undergraduate research assistants for their various programs. So it's a really cool initiative that's like specifically has undergraduate involvement at the heart of its kind of mission. And then journalism, Newhouse, yep, again, typically that has been um, through students working as research assistants with professors and supporting them on their projects. We've had a cool research group that's brought in a lot of journalism students. They're looking at misinformation and kind of using AI tools to detect misinformation. So lots of neat things going on there.
Another question about how students have the opportunity to present at symposiums and conferences. How do they get those opportunities? What does that look like?
Yeah. Let's see. Ayla or Alyssa, have you done an external conference? I can't remember. Yeah.
I have presented internally at
Mhm.
the spring and summer, and then I was at the ACC meeting of the minds last year.
Yeah.
But those are the only
Yeah.
presentations I've participated in.
Nice. And Alyssa, you've presented at our events, certainly. Yeah, so the source event, so there are a lot of presentation opportunities on campus. So source events are just open to any student that has, a project or work to share. Um, so that's a great audience. But, presenting externally at off-campus conferences, that's usually, kind of figured out in concert with the faculty mentor. So the mentor will usually kind of recommend like, oh, this conference is welcoming to undergraduates, or they have an undergraduate poster session, or you help them kind of target conferences where there's a good likelihood of getting accepted. But then we have a School of Education professor that for the last couple of years has taken students to present their original research at the I can't remember the name of it, but the big National Educators Conference. And they're often the only two undergraduates there. So it's really, so it's just that mentor that's really been like, hey, your work is you know, is high quality enough to be presented at this national conference. So it's really helped the students find that opportunity.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Question about if we work with other entities like other schools or colleges, specific schools or colleges outside of Syracuse University to conduct research, excuse me, and source that research.
And there, yeah, absolutely. And certainly there are a lot of cross-institution collaborations, with the faculty and kind of their research groups. Um, so that's, a lot of federal and, private big research grants are strong, are with these kind of cross-institutional teams. So we have quite a bit of that kind of activity really in all schools and colleges here. And so I've noticed that sometimes because of that, students will, if they're working with those research groups, they'll kind of maybe it might get the opportunity to go for a summer to another institution that's sort of part of this bigger project to do research with another mentor in the group, things like that. We don't have any, I guess, official partnerships, at the undergraduate level with other institutions, but there's a ton of research collaboration at the faculty level. Yeah, that trickles down right to undergraduate involvement.
Absolutely. Can students, if they're planning on coming on campus this fall, how soon can they get in touch with you? How soon can they reach out to talk about their research? Do you recommend, or research opportunities, do you recommend that they get to campus first and get acclimated, or can they reach out as soon as they realize they're going to come?
Let's say week 2. No, yeah, get through your first week of classes, and then, yeah, no, as soon as possible. Absolutely, we are open to meeting with students truly ASAP. So that is, if you like, Ayla knew right away, and so totally, if you're like, yep, this is something I know I want to do, come talk to us. Yeah.
And how do students get to work in labs? Like Ayla, it gets to work in her lab. What's the process like for that?
Yeah, I mean so usually it's kind of essentially it's the student reaches out to a number of labs typically, and then kind of has meetings with professors, kind of to learn, that you can research I mean, y'all can do this now. You research the labs just on the kind of departmental websites, but go have a conversation with the mentor. The principal investigator, head of the lab, and talk a little bit more. And then, it's kind of a, okay, is this going to be a fit? What are the lab's expectations? What are the students' goals? And, how's that kind of meshing up? So so it's a bit of a, process of kind of just a lot of outreach and then finding the right match. I should say also for lab research, students, a good number of our students do research with Upstate Medical University faculty, which is a neighboring institution. Fantastic, mentors there that are super eager to work with Syracuse undergrads. And so students just have access to that faculty in those labs as well. And Alyssa, you probably know people that work at Upstate, I would imagine, and Ayla. Yeah. And because there's a lot of psychology students go over there, the natural sciences. So, and then students sometimes work with SUNY ESF faculty as well. So in addition to our own faculty, we're fortunate to have these other opportunities for STEM students to join labs in neighboring institutions.
That's awesome. There are really so many opportunities on campus to get involved with research, and it's really across every single discipline. I think that we've only scratched the surface tonight of some of the opportunities for students, but I just want to say thank you to Ayla, to Alyssa. Thank you for sharing about your experiences here at Syracuse. Good luck to you in the next couple of years as you continue on. And thank you to all of you who have tuned in this evening. If you have further questions, please feel free to reach out. And a huge thank you to Kate for leading us through this and giving us some great information. As Kate mentioned, her information is right on that screen. So I'm sure if you have any further questions, she's available if you want to connect. But again, thank you all. Should you have any questions about admissions or anything else, please feel free to reach out to our office. Congratulations again on your admission to Syracuse University, and go Orange.